Greetings all, another episode of Shellanomics here. I'm here with our good friend Justin Cooper from Epic Tales. We're going to be breaking down our top 10 episodes from the Fred Wolf cartoon. Now, there is a little bit of a catch. Me and Justin both know season 1 is on a league of its own, so we didn't get to pick any of those episodes. So, Justin, before we get into the top 10, what makes season 1 so just stand out on its own? Like, what to you makes it just epic?
It's just, I mean, when you look at how the turtles look, and like every time you see the theme song and they've got those beaks with like the round sort of like shading on it and all that, the animation is next level. You know, that was Toei Studios who did Sailor Moon and all that, like the anime studio back in the day. Mm-hmm. Like the, you know, this animation, it's like, this is an anime. Like when you look at April in the mirror and all that and you see it, you're like, holy crap, this is an anime. You know, the speed lines and everything they were doing back then, like, it's just next level good. Do you imagine if they had the money to keep it going like that and every episode looked that good? It would be ridiculous. So now we look back. Yeah.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I was just about to ask, just imagine if we could add season 2 and season 3, because the fighting was, I mean, just when you see the first episode and he comes down with his chucks, Michelangelo swinging down, Donatello's bashing foot, Leo, they're fighting the foot with their, you know, their top loaded gear, the fight with like the giant robots. Yeah, it was. You can't have this in the top 10 because all of them would just blow every other episode out of here.
And like the funny stuff too, like I think it's like episode 2 or episode 1 where you got Raphael and he's fighting, you know, the foot soldier with the fan, and they have that sort of light effect that comes and it's like sucking him towards him, and he throws the side and he explodes. Like, yeah, that's hand-drawn animation with light effects that you just cannot recreate anymore, you know?
And I don't think we even, besides season 2's Incredible Shrinking Turtles, it was nice because all those episodes were almost like a to be continued too. It was just a whole complete story, almost like a movie too. Those first 5, and I don't think we had. I think maybe season 9 we had it to be continued, or season 10 with Lord Dragon, Shredder, and Krang. But I really don't recall any other to be continued.
Season 5 has one I know of.
Oh yes,
they're few, right? Yep, few and far between. Absolutely, okay. You're correct. They did a couple sequential episodes that are like out of like a couple in season 3, season 4, where they're like, hey, here's an episode, and then we're going to follow up on that episode. So it's like canon, and then you follow up on it. But
yes, that's like, right. Like the Osaki Ojimbos and a couple others just went back to back. And that crazy European trip they did, which for some reason we know it was supposed to be in season 4 because they show that they won the tickets for the trip, but then it goes all the way into season 7, the European episodes.
That's so weird. Yeah. I don't know, man. It's like, do you think that if they just had season 1, we'd still be having this conversation?
I would say yes and no, because we would as fans. They would just keep playing that, but I don't know if Turtle Mania would have kept up. And that's why we're talking about our top 10 here, guys, because our generation of cartoon turtles, as we talked about before we went live, kind of gets a bad rep in regards to, I think there was just such a demand for turtle episodes. I mean, they went from 5 in season 1 to, I may be wrong, I think it was 12 in season 2. And then season 3 and 4, we're having like anywhere between, I think it was 30 and 50 episodes. That's a lot of, that's pushing heavily.
Well, your syndication for shows gets you to 72 episodes, so you have to get to 72 so you can get to syndication. So that's when they're playing you, and they'll just put you in like a loop and all that. So that's a lot of shows will go 4 seasons or so, because that's what gets them to that 72. Then at that point you're golden. You can go on reruns. You can go like, oh, it's a rain delay on TNT, for whoever's playing or something. I don't know, and then they'll throw in syndication. So that's. Wow. Yeah, 72.
And I do remember Fred Wolf saying it too. He's like, wait, what do you mean we're done after season 1? It's like, we got a hit show here. It's like, we want to keep making more of these. I remember in the documentary you were saying that too. So now I would say yes, we still would be, but there is a no, because again, if it didn't hit the fandom, it might have just been like an anime. Like there's a lot of animes just have 1-2 seasons tops, and that's it.
Oh man, tell me about it. That's what always bugs me. But it's funny too, because I think about stuff that it's like I loved and like think fondly of. Like I love these things from the 80s, like Thundercats and Silverhawks. But they also had Tiger Sharks, which was this little lesser known sort of thing that only had 1 season. I love that. Do I love it like I love Turtles? Hell no. Yeah. But it's like I remember it. I'm like, oh, that was so cool. That's the octopus girl, and that guy turns into a dolphin. It's so maybe I don't know. That's some deep magic there.
Yeah. And then one more question for you. So if you could have picked any episode to have that we didn't get featured, which would it be? For me, it's a Christmas episode. I still cannot believe we never got a Christmas episode.
Huh. You know what? If I could pick one, I would go with a character who was a toy that I loved that he never got his due. I would say Walkabout the kangaroo. I would love for them to have had Walkabout in an episode.
Oh, that would have been actually really cool.
The turtles go to Australia, and it could have been a Red Sky era one. Like, who cares? Like, throw them there.
Yeah, exactly.
Australia, you know?
Yeah, he had all his armor, and I think there were a couple ones that I'll reveal later, like the toys that actually made it to the episode. Mm-hmm. That would have been actually a really good one. The Christmas though, if you've been reading the Saturday Morning Adventures, we did get a ShredderCon Christmas episode. Technically,
yes, we did.
For those who are fans of the old cartoon, we both highly recommend checking out the comic Saturday Morning Adventures if you want to know more about what we're talking about. I thought that was a really cool touch too.
Now, just so you know, so we're on issue 20, I think, just dropped of Saturday morning cartoons, right? So technically this would be like issue 24 because of the 4-issue miniseries. We just talked 2 weeks ago to Eric Burnham, and he said he just handed in his script for issue 30. So that means that it's still going, man. Like, we got at least another year going on in this book.
Oh, I am so happy. They do such a fantastic job. I mean, the first time I laid my eyes, like, wow, I'm actually hearing the voices of Townsend Coleman and Barry, just in my head reading that comic.
Sure.
Yeah, that's right. I think we actually brought that up last time I had you on the show. Actually, was that spot there? That's right, with the Donatello voice.
I love Donnie. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I'm a Leo guy, but
yeah,
like it's just fun. And watching this is kind of interesting because I remember a lot of my friends, like as kids, who were like, "Oh, Michelangelo is my favorite," or "Raph was my favorite." And it's like, yeah, I could see that because they got some of the best lines, like from just watching like after season 1 and just on and all that. But like, wow, yeah, Raph is really like chewing scenery here. Like, this is pretty. I could see why people say they loved him so much from this.
Oh yeah, and Mikey would just make up his own random like surfer lingo, so it was just something that stood out.
Yeah, it's funny too because it's like I was going back. I'm like, yeah, there's really not as much Leonardo in this as you think. He's doing his double duty with Rocksteady, so it's like, yeah, he's getting that check. He's going, back between those. But I'm like, it's funny. I always thought there'd be more Leo than there was.
So it's no wonder why they mentioned that in the DVD bonuses that Cam Clark says Leonardo was always known for. We've got to do something. That's all they ever make fun of. That's just had to be. That's the only lines he got. He couldn't be sarcastic, intelligent, or chill. He had to just be his leader role.
We saw them at C2E2, right? And they were talking about how Cam used to fall asleep, and they used to like nudge him and all that in there because he didn't have all those lines. So it's like he'd fall asleep.
That's hilarious.
But I got to tell you though, like rewatching this, there's two people that are absolute unsung heroes here. The late Pete Renaday just passed away. Did the voice of Vernon and the voice of Splinter. And Pat Fraley, who does not get enough credit for this series, doing his Krang, Shredder, you buffoon. It's, oh man, he is so good. Pat Fraley is just the best in this.
Yeah, he's almost like the Mel Blanc of the show. If you look at all his credits, Bern Thompson, Casey Jones, I'm sure you can name a couple more. I know he's even played a lot of the little guys. Yeah.
Yep, Slash, Krang. Let's see.
He was an officer. What the heck? I forget. He's in the Great Buldini. I can't think of his name now, but he's the one who calls the turtles leprechauns.
He was the officer.
Yeah,
like Officer O'Grady.
O'Flaherty. That was the one. Yeah, O'Flaherty.
They're leprechauns.
Yeah.
I didn't get my wish.
Yeah, I always wanted to ask him about that line. If he had to have come up with this line where he says, "Hold it right there, you wretched Larny devils," and Raphael goes, "Wretched what?"
Well, you got the green part right. Oh,
yeah, exactly.
See, that's what I'm saying. There's like some good little cuts in there, and it's like, oh man, this is funny.
Yeah,
but, I did remember some characters that I completely forgot and kind of like overwrote. Like everyone remembers Don Turtelli, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But do you remember the Butcher? I didn't remember him at first. I'm like, I always thought that was Don Turtelli.
No, that's an episode we're going to be talking about later. Yeah, that's one of our good episodes here. So, guys, before we get into our top 10, isn't there over 100 episodes here? I know they went for 10 years. I think was it 108? I think off the top of my head.
I'm looking, and so they say 126 of season 5, and then you've got 16 on top of that. So, and then it looks like maybe 100 and season 8 takes it to 177.
Yep.
Technically,
Close to 200 then, because they each had
193.
193. Yeah. So it's really hard to just choose 10 because we grew up with this show and are very passionate about it. But we just wanted to give you guys who either want to take a road down nostalgia or just maybe you're new to the Turtle Fred Wolf era and you just want a couple episodes that actually stand out and can still be relatable to watch today. Before we get into those, we did have a couple honorable mentions, we like to call it. So, Justin, what are some of your honorable mention episodes, if you have any, that just fell shy of the top 10?
The Big Cufflink Caper, episode 31 from season 4. That one stands out to me. I remember liking that one. I got a chance to rewatch it. It's pretty interesting. So that's one. And then Turtle. This one gets a lot of heat, and from what I understand, it is both beloved and hated at the same time. The Turtles in the Hair from season 4
with Hokum episode.
Yep, with Hokum hair. So episode 40, I think, is what that one is.
Well, what's nice about those two is they both had a VHS tape too, which stands out to us as well. Because back in our day, we didn't have the full season. We couldn't binge that until, unless you found a fake one in like the early 2000s. We had to wait till, I think 2003, I think was the first DVD release of season 1. So we only had maybe about, give or take, 50 to 60 episodes on VHS if you count the season episodes and a couple of the Sewer Hero series and a couple other ones. I know we didn't have every episode until when did that DVD come? Was it 2008?
That's what I was just going to say. I'm like, do you remember that DVD set that came out? It was the Party Wagon.
Yeah.
It was like incredibly expensive.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God, why is this thing like, I don't know, $100 and something? Like it's like, oh yeah. And it's like, check these out. And I'm like, oh man. And I remember getting the DVDs and it was like $9.99 or something like that for the first one. Cause the first season's 5 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, cool. Well, let me get the next season. Then the next season you see it's like, all right, this is 12. This one's getting up there. Then the next one's like $39. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah. They just went by and then it shrunk down again. But it was just like you'd have to wait a full year to finally get that too. So
yeah, it's not been easy to find because they didn't really have like a good presence on YouTube. And what you saw was just like a rip from somebody's old VHS tape because they were taping off the television.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah, I think they were called maybe even VOD. I think they were like called VCDs. I think I found like one a while back. Somebody was buying them, and I had them for like I called it my high school graduation gift. It was like I won't say the company's name, but that's exactly what they had. Were just this fuzzy wuzzy quality because it was VHS. And I'm like, hey, it's Turtles. I still get to watch them. I didn't, I never had this one as a kid, and it was nice to have. But then we finally got the DVDs that were just nice and clear and. Chapter select is always nice too. Back in our day, we had to just hold that fast forward button if you wanted to get to the next episode, or
if you were taping off of TV, you would have to sit there and hit pause in your recording so you wouldn't get the commercial. And then you unpause it, something like that, and you try not to miss it. And
that's how it was. And it's like now it's 50-50 because it's like some days are actually good commercials you wouldn't mind rewatching again. Like if it was a cool toy commercial or hyping up the next show, but most of the commercials would be like, like a snooze fest. So it was 50-50 if you wanted to even keep those. But do you remember the promo? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles will return after these messages.
Oh yeah, of course.
That was a daily one.
I know for recently these have been on. I want to say it was Tubi had like a Totally Turtles channel.
Oh, okay.
Where did you watch these? Because I know Paramount has up to season 3, and I think that's it.
So for me, for like as a kid when I used to watch them, it was I believe Channel 50 WPWR TV that was out here, and then I think I do remember watching the first few episodes. It might have been they made a VHS tape. It was pretty much like a shortness of the first 5 episodes, and they called it The Epic Begins or Epic Tale Begins, something like that. So I remember watching that and actually having pizza as a kid. I vaguely remember that like 3 or 5, but I do remember that. But back in the day, it was just like Channel 50 because it was on at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then you'd come home from school and you'd watch it again around, I think it was either 3 or 5 p.m. So you had those 2 time slots every day. And then eventually it went to CBS on Saturdays. So I remember on Saturdays, and it was cool and sucked. It was like, and that was like when it was at, I want to say the last episode I remember there was season 8. Cause I used to, I was big into soccer and baseball and basketball. So I couldn't really spend too much time on Saturday mornings. I was either out practicing, but I do remember a couple of those. And I was like, this is kind of wild. Cause as a kid, that was when Turtles 2 was around, and I always thought they were paying homage to. Do you remember the spot in the newer cartoon season 4 updated opener? Because it looked exactly like Michelangelo with the "Can we talk?" Because they all come after him, where he jumps into that pile of foot.
Well, that's what they did. They started that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah,
like splice in stuff from movies and all that, and
it was like the last hurrah from the Red. I mean, I like how they call it the Red Sky episodes too, because there was did you like the animation that when they? I mean, it was almost like their last Hail Mary of trying to keep the show going because they were dealing with Power Rangers, X-Men, and Batman the animated series.
Oh yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, the thing that bothers me more is the voices when the voices are different.
Yeah,
because there's times that you're watching even season 3 and season 4, and some of the guys are wrong. You're like, oh, you got Greg Berg doing Raphael or doing Donatello, and it's like this sounds like Scooter from Muppet Babies.
Yes, that's how I felt too.
And I'm like, and I looked and I'm like, oh, it's Scooter from Muppet Babies.
It really was. I felt the same way when I heard those episodes. It was like the Four Musketurtles is a prime example of that. That was one episode they had the voices different. I think Leo and Mike were the only two that were every show. Because I don't.
Mostly yes. They're and that's the funny thing too. Like with Rob Paulson, like he got let go like at a point. So it's like they replaced him, and it's like why just why would you do that? And like if you notice, there's like other legendary people that have been on here that it's like if you like voices from cartoons, God, now I'm trying to think. Like Tress McNeil, another one of the Animaniacs was on here. She did voices. Jim Cummings did Leatherhead.
Yes.
Here. So, but that's all he ever did. That was it. And there is a very specific reason. He did not get along with Fred Wolf. He hated Fred Wolf. And here's the funny thing. Like when we had Townsend Coleman on, he was telling us a story of what happened between him and Fred Wolf. And he's like, yeah, that's why, Jim would never work with him again because he screwed him over on his Zorro animated project. And, Fred Wolf's like, oh, I'm the biggest thing ever. Nobody's going to bother me. So he's like, oh, I'll never work with that hack again. So we got one Jim Cummings. That's it.
That's unbelievable. Because that's why I'm going to talk about an episode there where there was actually one where you didn't get to voice Leatherhead. And that's why it wasn't my top episode, because there was one episode where Leatherhead's there and he didn't get to voice him because he was on his way out. There is
that one of your is that one of your honorable mentions?
Yep. No, it's actually one of my top 10 that episode. It's a really good episode. We'll dig deep into. I know we probably can't pull the photograph up now, but what I want everybody to do, since you brought up Rob Paulson, I've always wanted to ask him this question if I can ever get him on for a show. I want you to watch the last episode of season 9, because that's his last one he does. And I want to know if they actually paid a tribute to him, because the last scene is Raphael waving to like a taxi cab. And I always wondered if that was on purpose to see if he's waving goodbye to everybody as the voice. So I don't know if you probably can't pull it up right now while we're doing this show, but if you just watch that when we're done, I want everyone to just see if because that was always my take when I got older, because I'm like, wait, season 10, this doesn't sound like Rob anymore. And that's what happens. We actually got let go.
Yeah.
We just not want more money. Like I said, I mean, it doesn't, maybe we can talk now. It's been, almost 30 years.
They made $300 per episode.
Okay.
And you think about that, it's like, okay, season 1, like what did they make?
Yeah.
5 episodes.
Yeah.
Season 2, and it's like scale and stuff like that. They made $300 an episode. It's like, that's not great, No. So, and that would eventually go on to change, I'm sure. But when they talk about it, they're like, yeah, we only did this, because they're essentially getting paid for their time and their hours and all that, and the time back then, what they would do. But,
Now, did they get paid for extras too? Was that like an extra bonus? Because I know most of those guys did a lot of the side roles too. Not only the Pat Fraley's of the world, but I know Pete Renaday did a couple. No, it was just wow.
They would just say, hey, we need you to do this character. So it would be like, yeah, Cam, you're gonna do this character.
Yeah, and Town's gonna do the Rat King or something. Wow. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. So, but I mean, here's the thing too. It's like the 4 turtles have pretty much been in every episode. So it's like, all right, you get that. So most of these guys have been in every single episode.
Yeah.
But it's like there's a couple where it's like Barry Gordon isn't in. He's not doing that. Like I said, Greg Berg is doing the voice. But even it's so weird to hear his bebop, like when it's not oh sure, it's like
who's he talking to? I just remember Four Musket Turtles. It's just like it's just not as intense. You don't get the snort or anything.
Yeah. And I love that Bebop. It's so good, and the Rocksteady too. We just covered on my show, the Rocksteady and the Bebop comic, the micro series. Dude,
That's
it's
such a good
so
miniseries.
much fun. Like, and it's like, Karai makes them, and it shows how, like, oh yeah, they're gonna have to fight to the end, like the Dark Knight, where the Joker comes in with a pool cue and says, I'm having auditions. It's like, oh cool, this is like what's going on. So, but
I
yeah,
love that miniseries. That IW. They did them justice in that too, because that's like that was the thing too. I guess this will just be because we're just spitballing. So did you know more about the cartoon than I do? Is it just because of the anime? Why did Rocksteady lose his helmet? He looked more of a badass in season 1, and then they just got rid of that army helmet. Was he look more threatening, or was that just the anime touch? You know what I'm talking about, right? When you watch the season 1, he's got that helmet on, and he even has it in the video games too.
Yeah, I don't specifically know the answer to that, but I know a couple tricks that animators do. Like which, and some of this stuff makes zero sense to me. But so when you look at a cartoon and they have 4 fingers instead of 5, right?
Yeah.
They'll tell you, oh, we're saving money on paint. That is the dumbest excuse I've ever heard. So, but one thing that I could relate to, like going back to talking about like Batman the animated series, they had a limited palette. Where they'll be like, oh, we have 8 colors that we use, and everything's done on black paper. Wow. So it's like, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe with Rocksteady, they had an issue where, that extra green color was just like either an expense they didn't want to do, or they just changed it, for the character or something.
Okay.
But I mean, what does he show up in twice? I think he's got it once in like the first time you see him, he has it on, and then like once again, and that's it.
Yeah, just season 1 with the anime, and that's pretty much all he had it on. It was just because it was done by a different company, I guess.
Maybe it was just too difficult, but
yeah, that's true too.
That is such a great question, though. It's like, why? Like, why don't we get that?
Yeah, I always thought that's why I leaned towards Bebop more as a kid. I always thought Bebop looked cooler as we grow. He had the shades, the mohawk, and a couple nose rings.
I like both. It's so hard because it's like I can remember, like, you talk about nostalgia and all that, Mike. It's like I remember getting Bebop for my 5th birthday. Like, oh, here's your birthday present and all that. You get like Bebop, and I'm like, oh, this is great. And it's like that. If that was the one thing I got, and I'm sure I got other stuff, but it's like that's the only thing that I remember for my 5th birthday. I'm like, I got Bebop.
Very nice. Most people for their 5th and 6th birthday, around, I think we're close to the same age. The one that was popular was that golden Leonardo turtle. Everybody got that as a toy. I don't know if you ever went to kids' birthdays, but everyone passed that one around. It was a collector one.
Yeah, no. See, mine was like I got Bebop, and it was like, God, 1986. Okay. So it's like that's that one I know that you're talking about. It's like I remember seeing that at Toys R Us, and since I'm like a huge Leo fan, I'm like, I want this so bad, but I never got that. Did you get that one? You still have it?
No, I actually, because I wasn't a Leo fan, I ended up getting sweaters and a couple other toys. I think it must have just been released in like January, because my birthday is in November, and a lot of people who are in January and February were getting it.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in like the Sears Wish Book catalog or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I want this. And you go through with a pen and like circle it and be like, hey, Mom, tell Santa wink, wink.
Exactly. Oh, my God. All right. So honorable mentions for me. I've got 3 of them. So we're going to do this one for Batman fans. Do you recall the Night of the Dark Turtle from season 7?
He is. Dark Turtle is sitting up here on my.
Oh, you had it. Oh, that's an awesome figure. Is that the NECA one then?
Yeah. Let me put him down.
I may have to get that one. I may have to buy that one, because that is an awesome, awesome piece. So I'm not sure like what the writers wanted to do here, folks, but in season 7, Donatello becomes Batman, and he becomes a little bit grimmer. And it's one of the, it is such a stellar figure. Wow, it's exactly
a cloth cape that has a wire in it. So
Oh my God, it is a delicious toy. I'm gonna have to. I think I'm gonna have to buy that one.
Very cool. I think I saw somebody selling one recently in
one of the groups.
Yeah, Party Wagon or something.
Let's take a look on there. So not only did we have Donatello as Batman, this was near the end of James Avery's voice as Shredder, I remember, because he was on his way out. And then you also get the Triceratons in there. I thought that was pretty cool. It was their only episode they appeared in the old show.
Was that with Zorak and all them?
Yeah, they're all and exactly makes you feel like you want to play some Shredder's Revenge when you start talking Triceratops.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the only video game they ever showed up in.
Yeah, it was a big tease for me and you, as we saw with Turtles 3, the Manhattan Project. They're on there, but no love to them.
Yep.
So
well, I guess they do show up at the back of Tournament Fighters, but
yeah, and I think maybe a game. I want to say they're in the third Game Boy because I was watching a friend stream it during our Shellathon eventually. Maybe in there, but yeah, for the mainstream games they weren't. Then we had two other ones here. Cowabunga Shredhead. I think that's James Avery's. It had to be his favorite episode of Shredder. To go from the angry Shredder to Michelangelo's the party dude Shredder. Now, did you like the writing in that one too growing up?
That's a good one. That is a really good one, and that's kind of going along with what we were saying about, like, I could see why people's favorite was Mikey, because they gave him so much in these early seasons.
Yeah.
Well, and then they're like probably like, oh, we've got to do something with Leo and Donnie. And
yeah, that's what came later. Yeah, like Leonardo Renaissance Turtle in those episodes.
But that was the second time they did that too, because they did the first one where Splinter and Shredder, had switched bodies.
Oh yeah,
so it's not even the first time it happened. So
yeah,
but that was way better. Like Cowabunga Shredhead is really good.
Yeah, if you guys want some chuckles, that is one I highly recommend. And the other one, just for anybody who wants to watch a birthday episode, there's two birthday episodes. One is Raphael's, but the one we got here is Michelangelo's birthday. And you actually like this episode, Jess. I know a lot of people hate it because the story is weird. It makes no sense in regards to the mothballs, but I find it funny. There's a lot of good humor in that one. Krang says, my horoscope said it'd be my lucky day. Just little, random stuff like that. And I watched every birthday of mine.
So I watched that one today, and it's Michelangelo, and he's going through, and like the turtles are like clearly trying to plot and to make like a surprise birthday party for him. And it's like they're trying to make it special, and it's fun. It's one of those ones where it's like you can see the camaraderie between the turtles, and the ending is a little weird, but I mean, it's, I don't know, it's like it's not any better or worse than others. It's like, yeah, it's on par with like some of the cool ones that you'll remember. Like,
yeah, and I always like the comedy. Bebop and Rocksteady steal bikes from kids. I mean, there's just so many weird. So that was a little honorable mention. All right, Justin, let's finally bring in number 10 on your side. What do you got?
So you mentioned this one. This is actually a twofer. This is season 5. This is my one from season 5. Planet of the Turtleoids.
Oh, that was such a good one. So do you remember the promos to hype that one up too? There were promos to hype that up.
That was a big deal. That was the thing. And this was one of those ones that was the Saturday morning CBS ones.
Yeah.
Where they replaced the nunchucks with Michelangelo with like a grappling hook and all that. And a lot of it seemed like the Michelangelo show at that point, where it's like, oh, Mikey's off doing this thing, so. But I think this was a really good one, and it was one of the two-parters. I don't really go much further past number 5, even though I've seen them. Like I've seen some from number 10, like season 10 or whatever, but I couldn't remember one. When you asked me this, I'm like, I do not have time to go back.
Right. Yeah, that's all that we just said about 200. No, that is a real good choice. I mean, you get Ground Chuck and Dirtbag in there.
Yep.
You get them their debut. And I could be wrong, but I want to say that was debuted on primetime. I think that was actually a night show. I could be wrong.
I think it was.
Stands out. I don't know why. And it was just so cool because Turtles at Night on primetime was just off the wall. It was just awesome. I do think there was something like that.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe it's part of getting caught up in that I remember this one, but the funny thing about it is kind of with all of the favorite episodes that I have, it's all because there's another character other than the regular cast of characters. It's like, oh, there's this person in it, or there's that person, or this person came back. And that's kind of like the prevailing theme that I have. It's like there's usually a new character introduced or a return of another character. So
it's a good choice. So mine is the Sword of Yurikawa from season 6. Do you recall this episode?
Yeah, that's a good choice, man.
Yeah, I like that one because that involves Splinter. Yeah, a lot of mine are going to involve Splinter in songs. So it was just like, it's like, whoa, if he's involved, it's going to be an epic episode. So he's in there
with the Henri touch or whatever, or not the Henri, the special maneuver, and it turns out to be from the Three Stooges.
Oh no, close. That is the Curly maneuver. That's in
Curly.
Yeah, that's the one they were doing. Yeah, knock knock knock. That's another from season 3. No, this had the guy who was like a rare weapon collector. He was in there with his crossbow. And that was Rob Paulson who voiced him. And then again, this is near James Avery's end as Shredder. So he's in there. So it's a really cool spot where they all try to steal the sword. Now, Splinter's successful, puts a dummy sword in there. And then Shredder goes in. I think the commander goes in next. He steals a sword, but it's not the right one. And then Shredder puts a sword in there, and it's all on like camera, just like how they all did it, which is pretty cool. So I really encourage you guys to watch that one because, again, the Turtles don't know it's Splinter and Under Disguise.
Yeah, that's the ninja.
The sword. And he challenges Leonardo to fight him, and he gives him the sword and says, hey, and Donatello's like, you're going to dishonor him if you don't combat with him. So
that's the one they're making the new figure based on, right? The new Splinter as a ninja figure.
Oh, they are? Oh, I didn't even know that. Wow.
Yeah, so that's a solid choice.
Yeah, so that's season 6. Yeah, me and Justin, we put a lot of passion into trying to figure out like 10 episodes that anybody would watch and still be timeless to watch this day. So what's cooking at number 9?
Number 9, this is not going to surprise a lot of people. Slash, the evil turtle from Dimension X.
Oh, yes.
You have my pinky. My pinky. I watched this with my entire family, and they were downstairs because we watched like 2 or 3, and I'm like, oh, we got to check this one out. And they're like, you know what? He's dumb and it's silly, and there's like a lot of jokes and side jokes and fourth wall breaking, and they're like, this is a pretty enjoyable episode, you know. And I mean, like, as cool and badass as Slash is, it is equally as funny. So
I agree. And it's Bebop and Rocksteady's pet, or Bebop's pet Slash.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And it's funny because without it now, did he come from the comics or was he created from the TV show Slash?
You know, it's got to be the TV show first because he shows up in the Archie Adventures, but the Archie Adventures at this point have deviated far. You know, so in the comics in Archie, he's a kid's turtle. You know, and then he ends up getting mutated. He's not Bebop's pet. So in this one, he's Bebop's pet. Yeah. And obviously in the 2012 version, he's Raph's pet. So,
yeah. And he's one of the hardest guys to fight in any video game. Just ask anybody who plays Turtles in Time.
Yeah, he's a pain in the neck. You know,
still brutal.
I mean, it's up for debate, like between him and like Metalhead and Leatherhead and all that. And it's like, oh, these guys just piss me off.
Yeah, Leatherhead's another tough boss. In those
I have no problems with Baxter Stockman as a Fly. I have no problem.
And any of them, yeah, they made him kind of a not that good of a enemy in there. So we've got season 8, one of the ones from the Red Sky here, and this one is called Wrath of the Rat King. So if you have not watched it recently, you do see. This is the reason this one stands out to me is because this is the last episode I recall. You know, as growing up watching on Saturday mornings, I was like, well, this is where they got a new theme song. They got the Rat King series. It looks darker with that head. I thought that was such a great look for him with the Rat King.
More shadow. Yeah.
Yes. He had those giant rats. Shredder and Krang are in there still. And what else? I made some bullets. It's Splinter's favorite quote of mine because the Turtles are actually down. And Splinter gives like this, like, you know, I don't know, like almost like a quarterback or a coach comeback, second half comeback. Like, if you believe the ill others speak of you, you have already lost. Winning is nothing. Doing your best and acting with honor are the only things that matter. And Peter Renade delivered that line so powerful. It still strikes me as a kid. And the other part here is April finally gets fired from Byrne. If you watch the end. So that was near the end when because in the first episode of season 8, the news building blows up, which is actually pretty cool. Shredder, I never bluff. And then they're just trying to piece stuff together. And yeah, Byrne says, you know, have a little chat after April exposes the Rat King and who really saved the day.
How about that? That's good to know.
Yeah. So, all right, number 8.
Number 8 for me is Usagi Come Home, which was the second version of, or the second episode with Usagi Yojimbo. So this was season 3. I forget what episode it was like. It was like if Usagi was 32, then this would have been like 35.
Yeah, because they skipped over for some reason, right?
It was weird because it was like, okay, he's there. We established we got to find a way to get him home. And then it's like, oh, 2 episodes later, he comes back. But man, I just love him. Anytime he shows up, it's like the best. And I loved that character as a kid. The toy was so cool. Yeah. You know? And then to see him, I was always kind of like, how come it doesn't look more like the cartoon? But we eventually got a really cool NECA version.
Yeah, no, we did. And there's another good spot in that one, too, actually, since you brought it up, is that's actually my favorite line from Raphael in that episode, because Usagi goes, I have to finish you guys in it, my friends. And he's like, I know Raphael says something like, that might not be as easy as you think, and like pushes like the dumpster right back at him. That was one of my favorite lines from Raph, which is like, yeah, get that confidence going, man.
It was cool too because it was one of those classic like comic book things. It's like, oh, we've got to fight each other, and it's like, oh, the
Yeah,
heroes are fighting, you know.
yeah.
And he's
Who
like,
voiced Usagi too, Justin? Do you know who voiced Usagi?
yes, I do. That was Townsend.
It was? I thought it was him. Okay. Oh man, I got one of those Usagis on later, so that's a really good choice. So I do like that one.
Nice.
So we've got season 7, Dirk Savage. Do you remember this?
Dirk Savage. Wow. Yeah.
So this one season 7 was, again, like I thought that was going to be the final. When you watch
Mutant
it,
Hunter. Yeah.
it feels like this is like the end of the whole era because they're bringing everybody together. So Dirk Savage is almost like, I don't know, kind of reminds like a Cable type, like a anti-hero who's trying to stop mutant scum. Now, Jim Cummings I got to look up the voice, but it almost sounds like Jim Cummings may have voiced that Dirk Savage character. Maybe. If you want, I don't know if you want to look it up while I'm spieling here. So you get Toka and Razor in this episode, guys, which was awesome. They start off the episode, which you didn't ever see coming in a cartoon. You also get Mondo Gecko and the Punk Frogs. So you got a lot of good people, and that one still holds up to this day, I believe.
You know what? You're right. It was Jim Cummings.
Wow.
So I take it back. It wasn't just Leatherhead that he did, but okay. I guarantee you that he wasn't coming back, often. So.
Which is weird. So that's weird. Again, it must have been different filming times just because he voices him, but there's another episode that he doesn't voice, and it's all in season 7. So just must have been timing.
Well, that's a funny part too, because it's like if you have like people who come in and do special guest voice and all that, they're just gonna come in the one time.
Right.
Like I don't know if you watch Adventure Time or anything, but they had like Weird Al Yankovic on, and he did Banana Guy, right?
Okay.
So he was coming in one time, recording his stuff, and then he was going. And then it's like, okay, we're gonna put his voice in like different episodes and stuff like that. So it's like they could have very well done that with Jim Cummings, because I know after a while, like he was persona non grata,
Yeah, exactly.
Which again is crazy because he was the king of Disney Afternoon.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I like talking. Justin, again, thanks for coming out. It's a nice fun fact. I didn't know that Jim Cummings was on there, but just didn't get along with Frello because he may have been another voice. He could have been a villain. I mean, he was, but he could have had a lot more longer tenure on that show.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
So what do you got cooking at lucky number 7?
This is one that we may have some overlap on. This was Leatherhead, Terror of the Swamp.
Great choice. Speaking of Jim Cummings.
Yep. Yeah. I like that. Couldn't have been like more perfect of a dovetail there. But
yeah,
dude, that was so cool. And like the character of Leatherhead is so different than the toy. He's so fierce and huge, and he looks like the Undertaker or something like that, because it's like he's this huge 7-foot tall guy with like big black pants and boots and stuff, huge arms, maybe Stone Cold, like maybe he looks like Stone Cold more because he's got the vest and all that.
Yeah,
but I'm like, yeah, he looks like a monster, and I loved it. Yeah,
yeah,
the frogs were in it, man.
Yeah, Punk Frogs, and it just now. Are you like me? Is that the Leatherhead of your choice? Like, if you think of Leatherhead, is he the one that comes to mind, or is it more like the just without the attire? Because for me, it's always Leatherhead with the hat on, and just that's the one I remember.
So that's the costume, and I mean it does match the toy and all that.
Yeah.
But like, if you're gonna ask me my Leatherhead, I'm gonna say it's the Leatherhead from the Archie series comics 100% of the time. More than anything, even the Mirage stuff. Like, give me the Leatherhead and Donatello's mini series, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I love that Leatherhead. Intergalactic wrestling, all of it.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, that's a very good choice. I actually didn't have that one of my top 10. I've got Leatherhead somewhere else, but that is a good episode. That's why I needed someone like you on here, Justin, because we can kind of go back and forth and kind of dot the I's and cross the T's in regards to if there's one we're missing here. So number 7 is similar to yours. I have Usagi Yojimbo, the first one.
Oh, okay, cool. Yep.
I like this one because you had General Trag in there in the beginning. If you remember, just it was a quick little spot. Heavy-duty foot soldiers too. There's a lot of foot soldiers in this episode, and again, because you can chop heads off robots, just not humans. It's kind of a violent episode if you think about it. I mean, Usagi chops the head off one of the foot, beats the crap out of like another 20 with his whirlwind. Couple good sarcasm spots in there.
Raph has awesome lines in this one.
I'm gonna botch the line a little bit, do you know the English one? If you know it, you can say it for me.
The English line?
Yeah, well, he's like, not only is he from another planet, he's also from another dimension. So naturally, he speaks English for
Yeah,
when he comes out. So, just another good spot there. And then, what is it? There was a couple other funny spots where he's in the restaurant working, and he's like, "Fight for your freedom, brothers!" Where all the bunnies are dressed up in there. So the comedy's really good in there too. And one of my fun facts, I actually stumped Michelle Ivy on this, is the only episode from the Fred Wolf era that calls Michelangelo Mikey. He has only references Mikey one time, and it's in this episode.
Nice.
So that's what stood out to me. So what do you got cooking at number 6?
Well, I was going to say just about that episode. I may talk about that episode later.
Go right ahead. So, and that's how it's going to be. Like I said, that's why it was just a fun, like, me and Justin didn't reveal our top 10 pre-recording, guys. This is kind of like live here for us. So,
all right. So number 6, I hope I picked the right one.
Okay.
This one that I don't think you'll see coming. It's Enter the Fly.
Ooh.
Exactly. And so if I'm thinking of the right one, this is the one where April gets poisoned.
Yes, that's in season 2. Yep.
So season 2, they get poisoned, and they have to get the Gazai plant and all that. And one of the most memorable things that I ever remember is Michelangelo going, "Here's Gazai in your eye." You know, like, at the end when he makes the pizza from the antidote Gazai leaf. And like, he's such an idiot. I love him.
And that's where Bebop and Rocksteady come back for the first time. They debut the Knucklehead toy.
The Knucklehead. Really you got Baxter Stockman. You know,
and I think the Turtles actually fail in that one too, right? I think they had to get a second chance at getting the antidote, if I can recall.
Absolutely. Yeah. Shredder ran away with the leaf, and I mean, we thought April, oh my God, she's gonna die. You know.
That's a really good choice. Yeah, I didn't give Baxter any love on my top 10. It's good that you did, because he's another character that appears in so many frequent episodes. I think he's in one almost at least every season.
Well, let's be honest. Until they made him the Fly, he wasn't the best character. Like, he was just like, oh, okay, he's that guy. Like, everything has that guy, and it's like, yeah, you know, it's fine, but he doesn't come across as particularly dangerous, and he's stupid and he's annoying, and like how long like can you just tolerate Shredder being like, "You buffoon," and all that? And it's like, that's, you know, he just wasn't great. And then you see him in the 2003 series, and you're like, oh, holy crap. And then you see what happens to him, and you're like, oh my God, you know.
And I think we said that's our Baxter. 2003 is our Baxter. The voice acting was great. The character development was fantastic. He stood up to everybody like, look, I'm just as good as you. I'm just doing this to get paid, pretty much. I was saying. He
was a very less successful Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like he just doesn't, like, stuff doesn't go right for him in that one. But it's like, you know, he's the smartest guy in the room. It's just he can't get past his own ego, and that was what his downfall was.
Yeah.
This one was just an idiot, and you know, it's like,
true. As if that's the only Baxter on yours, there's that one episode where he does. Do you have Baxter anywhere else on yours?
I was gonna do Return to the Fly because I love that Misfits song too. But but Enter the Fly was the only one I think I picked on here.
Okay, because he did have some other good ones where he actually gets revenge on Shredder and Mikey. Isn't Mikey like a gerbil, and Shredder actually turns into a fly? It was one of those. And then for a comedic spot, my buddy Tim and I always joke where he's looking for April, and he's like, find April O'Neil, find May O'Neil, find June O'Neil. And he finally goes into an office, and he goes, are you September O'Neil?
Oh my God.
he's got some good lines. All right. So number 6 for me is actually one you mentioned already, and it's the big cufflink caper. I always thought that was a cool one because the Turtles are bad guys in there. They work for the bad guys. They didn't do that in any other episode. I don't believe. And they worked with Shredder against the Killer Pizzas, but they never said they were going bad. And they did to join the Big Louie's gang. I thought that was so cool. The writing was great.
I think the writing is super solid in that one. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, they had to put them on ice. You know, they did the playful, you know, with words on there, with putting Beaver, you know, making fun of Leave It to Beaver. I thought that was kind of funny too, a little touch. I think that's the one too where they have the taffy and Louie's got those lines. It's curtains for you, like the old mobster, you know, lines are in there. So. And it was a VHS tape, so that's why I remember that one. I had that one growing up. So
okay, all right, I didn't know that was on there, but that may have been one of the reasons. I've got one of the VHS tapes over. I'll see which one it is. The yellow one.
Yeah, it was one of the, I think it was part of the big series. It was like, I mean, it was the end of season 3, like the big break-in was on one, the big blow, and I think the big cufflick was one of them. So
See if I could see that. I think this is Sky Turtles. I think that's
that's Burger King, baby. I don't know why I didn't put that one.
Yep.
Oh, that should have made an honorable. That's a shame on me for not putting it as an honorable mention. Those were, I had all 4 of the, well, I didn't have the Great Bulldine. I had Sky Turtles, April, I won't talk about in case you have them on your episodes, but I did have 3 of the 4 of those tapes. Oh man! All right, dude. I'm having a time of my life just talking. It's been fun just going back and forth, not only with our numbers, but just spitballing. With our little, chiming in. So halfway home, what you got cooking at number 5?
one of my absolute favorites. Farewell, Lotus Blossom.
Good choice.
So this would be the second one, the one with Takahashi. They just released maybe a year ago the Lotus Blossom NECA figure with Takahashi, and that was based on this one. So Lotus is kind of Karai for the 87 series. Like, we would go on and get Karai as a character, but this character is completely different, completely independent. She's a female ninja assassin, and she's a badass, and she's just cool as hell. And Renee, so Renee did her voice just like April and all that. She did, I think, most of the characters besides Irma. Yeah, but I like this one a lot. It's cool. It's a neat little story about, like, they try to save this this urn, and it turns out the urn holds a ghost, and it's cursed. Bebop and Rocksteady, of course, break the urn, destroy it, and all that, let the ghost free. And they find out that the spirit of his departed wife or something was residing inside Lotus Blossom. So it's like, oh, okay, this is like happening on a deeper level here. This is not like, oh, we've got to stop Shredder and Krang from obtaining power source A, otherwise, whatever. And we know about this because April talked about it. That was kind of like the formula. It's not that at all. So yeah, I like that one a lot.
That's a good choice. I didn't even think of, like I said, the deeper kayak. She's having dreams about this guy. It's a little bit more, a lot deeper than kids. That's a good call.
Yeah, and she was having dreams about it, and it was cool because we got to see a return of the character. And I always loved Lotus because it's a Leonardo story.
Yeah,
Leonardo had a crush on her and all that.
Oh yeah, and in the first one she dominates too. I mean, she beats the heck out of the turtles, and it's cool because Krang's in the Bubble Walker in that episode.
Oh yeah,
Fire and Lotus Fryer. So
he's like, I see you're wearing your best suit.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. All right, so we have one here. Like we said, season 7 was just bringing everybody back. So Night of the Rogues. Do you remember this episode?
Not at all. Night of the Rogues.
So this is what I'm not going to give you homework, just, but if you can, watch this before you go to bed. It could have been a number 1 for me, but there's a couple of wrong plots. But anyways, so Shredder and Krang get everybody, and I mean everybody. So the Turtles have to deal with Slash, Tempestra, Chrome Dome, Leatherhead, Rat King, Anthrax, and I also believe Scumbug is in there. So they have, and Slash. So everybody's in it. The Turtles actually get captured, and then Splinter has to call on Casey Jones and Zack the 5th Turtle. So everybody is
in like 5 episodes at this point. So
yeah, and that's what I said. I think they were just trying to patch up everybody to give everybody at least one more hurrah of like being featured in an episode. The only problem I had was there was no Jim Cummings for Leatherhead. Otherwise, this would have been up a couple more spots.
Oh, so Leatherhead was in it too?
Yeah, I think it might have been Pete Renaday. If you watched the episode, you might be able to pick it up better than me. I think Pete Renaday voices that, which is okay, but just the jokes weren't there, and the ba gumbo and I guarantee. I mean, Jim Cummings been all those catchphrases, and the dude's only in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
Man,
that makes me sad, but that's cool. So it's called Night of the Rogues.
Yeah. So I'll
I
be sure to link it to
think
you.
I've seen that one. I'm sure I saw it, but I don't remember it.
Yeah, I never watched it as a kid. I only knew it because of the DVDs. Otherwise, I would never even knew the episode existed. So that's one of you might be like, this is a really cool episode. I mean, you just see everybody. It's like, how did they even have the time to make this all in a 20-minute episode?
Oh, I love that. Like anytime there's like this huge ensemble. And it's like when you said that about Chrome Dome, and I was thinking of like Planet of the Turtleoids again and all that. And it's like, I just remember like watching that episode, and they talked about adamantium, and I'm like, that's what Wolverine has it. And it's like
in the back of the neck, there's like one little weak spot. I think there was an extra episode where Apocalypse also had a weakness in the back of his neck or something.
Arcade
after it, right?
Yeah, that was
double X-Men there.
The 4-part episode there. Yeah.
So those were good. All right, we're down to the NCAA Final Four.
Final Four. I'm going to go with one of my favorites, Raphael Meets His Match, which is the Mona Lisa episode, the first Mona Lisa episode. We get her origin story. We find out how awesome she is. She's a college student, and she gets mutated after she gets taken over by this pirate on a submarine, and she's forced to work for him. She gets mutated. Now she vows revenge, and Raphael wins a ticket from McDonald Crump, which and I watch this with my kids. They're like, "Wow, this was really ahead of its time." And so he goes on this ship, and April's there with Vernon, and it's kind of like a costume party, so he can walk around freely. And the pirate comes, and then all the turtles have to get together to kind of save the day. It's really fun, and there's like these giant sea slugs in it that are like the pirates' henchmen. It's an interesting one. Like, it is memorable as hell.
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
Didn't they make fun of Peter Piper too? Because they call it Pick a Peck a Pizza or something. They couldn't say that right.
And it's funny because it reminds me of when McDonald's made pizzas, which would have been like years after this, but they put them in like these tiny little cardboard boxes and all that. And yeah, oh man, yeah, the McDonald's pizza Happy Meal.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to look up a YouTube commercial on that. Justin, I didn't even know that was the thing. So I always think,
yeah,
I didn't know about that. How about just how powerful an impact of Mona Lisa? I mean, she got DLC for Shredder's Revenge, being only in one episode. It's just unbelievable.
She's awesome. I mean, she had a late run figure in the series too, the Playmates. So I mean, I picked that up. I was able to get, like, I got in on a raffle like years ago, like pre-COVID or something like that, or like right around that time. And it was like, oh, I put in like $60 and I won it. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So I got her on Mint on card. I'm like, that's pretty slick. But she's just so different too. And it's like, when you see like all the characters that they have, and it's like Mona Lisa is a cool character that's identifiable on her own, and it's like she's a strong female who's smart, and she's not like constantly in peril. She's doing stuff. So it's so different. It's like her and Lotus are different. They're not Irma, they're not April. They're different characters. So I just adore her.
Who voiced Mona Lisa? Do you know? I just had that trivia question.
That is a great question.
I was trying to think. I don't think it was Renee. The voice sounds a little different. Yeah, while you're looking up, that was. I mean,
yeah. Let me look that up.
Yeah, because that was a good episode. That was also one of the ones you could have on the Sewer Hero series. That was so you get that episode, and there's one. I don't know if you had that VHS tape growing up, but you had that one, and then it was like Raphael doing stand-up comedy. I think was the second one on that tape.
Oh, it's interesting. It's funny. What came up was Zelda Williams does the voice of Mona Lisa on the 2012 series. I'm like, oh wow, Robin Williams' daughter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot she was in.
They said Pat Music voices Mona Lisa. Oh wait, no, in Raphael Meets His Match. So Pat Music.
Oh wow.
I wonder what else Pat has done.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested here. Actually, we can take a little note here because it's a good trivia question.
Non sequitur here. Okay, and where's Pat? Music. Musick. Okay. Oh, okay. So she did Sherman from Mr. Peabody and Sherman, the 2014 movie. Also known for An American Tail and Duckman. That's good. Gotta love Duckman. American Tail.
Yeah. So
she did right? Tony. Okay, this is gonna be deep geek magic. If you guys like cartoons and all that, I gotta tell you. If you remember An American Tail with Fievel and all that, Tony was the girl that he was hanging out with that fell in love with the street tough.
Yeah.
So they did that one. Holy crap. Wow. And let's see. Martha Wayne on Batman Brave and the Bold. Anything else? That she was on the Boondocks as various voices. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that really stands out here. Nope. Yeah, okay, so some cool stuff, but man, she has sure been working. Lots and lots of work here. Wow. Huh, cool. Yeah, I had no idea.
Always like the IMDb nearby, especially with cartoons. Like, oh, I know that voice. I mean, like, besides Frank Welker, and some of you just would catch right away. All right,
well, we did get we didn't get Frank Welker on this one, but we did get Peter Cullen doing was it the Slash for Cash Dojo, and he played Smash. Oh,
really?
Yeah,
wow.
and that was what Return
That's
of the Shredder.
yeah, I didn't know that. Oh, wow. That's a good trivia question there. I didn't know that was his voice. Wow. So number 4, you'll be happy to know here, is a Leonardo special in season 3. Take Me to Your Leader. That was the one where Leonardo is down on himself and he doesn't want to be the leader anymore, so he leaves the team. And then Mike, Don, and Raph get a shot at the spotlight. And I just think it's a really well-written episode. Leonardo gets his confidence back and comes, but just to see how all three of them are, they just show you why like the role fit Leo to be the leader. I mean, they had Raphael at first, and he's like, well, I'm more the wisecrack. I mean, we could, I don't know, go up. Sounds like a good idea. And then Donatello's like, no, we're going to do it my way. And there's that spot where Donatello's doing a calculation. Raphael's like, east is this way. And Donatello's still doing math. And he's like, I got it. East is that way. And then the other funny spot was, all right, I guess Donatello had to leave. And Raphael's like, well, I guess that makes you the leader, Mike. And he's like, all right, so what do you want to do? So it's just, did you like this one growing up? Do you remember?
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. And it's funny because it shows like this character of Raph a lot really well in this, where it's like, yeah, he is unsure, he is insecure, and you see a lot of that. And Mikey's just so aloof, like, he doesn't know because he doesn't really like think ahead.
Yeah.
So and Don overthinks.
Yeah. Exactly. No, it's one of my favorite. I always wish I had that one as a kid, because that was one of the ones I remember as a kid, but I never got to watch again until like those DVDs came out. And I really wish I could have had the VHS tape back, because that's one I would have watched religiously. I really like that one, especially the dream in the beginning where Leonardo where he has his doubts because Michelangelo jumps into like a fake pizza. Somebody turns into a bubble. I think they're like Rocksteady blows a bubble at one of them. So I love that episode.
That was some weird stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Number 3.
This is a Donatello episode.
Oh, okay.
So for all you Donnie fans out there, the Maltese hamster. So and again, like most of mine are coming from season 3, but this is such a good episode. It's a parody of the Maltese Falcon, like an old film noir. This one, Donatello narrates, and he is doing kind of like the Humphrey Bogart expression, really getting to flex like Barry Gordon here. And he's doing a lot of this stuff. And like just the other stuff that seems to happen in it too. It's like there's a lot going on here. This is a writing heavy episode because they really paid homage back to like the Maltese Falcon, and they're like, oh, well, how we're going to match it up here. And it was all about Shredder trying to find this hamster, and inside this hamster statue was a fuel that they could use to power up the Technodrome. And that was the thing. And it's like April finds the hamster at an antique store, and she's having it delivered, and everybody's trying to get the hamster. And it ends up being like Donatello on his own trying to like save all the turtles, who end up getting kidnapped by the gangster. And the gangster is the Butcher, right? So the Butcher's like, he's a pretty big guy. He's not like Don Turtelli. He's not like short. He's like bigger than Rocksteady, actually. So, and the Shredder gives them guns, and they end up doing really well against the turtles, and they kidnap 3 of them and Splinter. And the whole idea is to try to leverage Donatello to give the Maltese hamster to him so he could give it to Shredder. I just think it's a great episode. It's really fun to watch. I think I watched it twice just because I'm like, oh, this is so good. So
and it takes place at night too. I just like the vibe of that. And a good feel to it too.
Well, it's also got that sense of danger when he blows up a building, and then Donatello gets completely covered in rubble, and the only thing that's shown is his hand, and they think they killed him, and it's like, oh wow, okay, what's going on here?
No, it is one of my favorites. So number 3 is Splinter No More in season 2. Splinter becomes human. They don't call him Splinter anymore. They call him Master Yoshi. So Donatello whips up a little, antidote to turn Splinter back into a human. I always thought this was cool. And there's a couple other spots I like in this one is where the turtles actually fight themselves because there's like a brain freeze thing going on. And again, it's not the greatest anime, but it's one of the better fights that we got to grow up with besides season 1. Like Mikey and Leo are using their chucks and katanas against each other. Raph and
in the beginning, right?
Yeah. And April's like, what's going on? Like I was shocked as a kid, like, whoa, like this never happened before. So they were going at, and then to me, Splinter looked freaky as hell when he was starting to like slowly go back into his old way. And that's how my buddy and I felt. And the same with the Catwoman from Channel 6, if you remember that one too. Just like April looked so freaky, like before she turns into a full-blown cat like that. Just like the one before they go, it's just like,
how weird does that tiger look, by the way?
Oh,
This is the weirdest looking tiger.
Yeah.
You know, like the animators, they're like, oh, let's make a tiger. They're like, do you know what a tiger looks like, guys? It's like,
And then it runs after a mouse or something, right? Mikey put the toy mouse out and
the
it
toy
runs
mouse, and yeah, that is such a solid one too. Like both of those are great, and I love both of those. And Catwoman almost made it on, but it is one of those things where it's like that one kind of suffers a little bit from a couple tropes, and it's like I don't know if it's the best animated one, so it does suffer a little bit. Yours is awesome. It's such a good choice.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool to get more Splinter in this because Splinter was such a strong character.
Yeah. I agree. And like you said, those, like I said, there's plenty of good episodes out of it. But just like we were talking pregame too, is just, a lot of these fight scenes, it was just people throwing each other back and forth. Is it just because of the violence, or is it because they had to rush to make these episodes? Like, I was really shocked. Like, again, I mean, like we said, Usagi and Casey Jones use their weapons almost more than the Turtles sometimes in their fights.
Yeah, that's very true. And I mean, Usagi like just beat the crap out of everybody. Slash too. Slash destroyed everybody.
Yeah. You didn't care. All right, we're down to 2. Who's taking silver?
The first episode with Lotus. So because we've mentioned both of my next choices. So Beware the Lotus.
That's a good choice.
I love this episode. This is the first introduction of Lotus Blossom. She is, going to replace the Shredder for Krang. He's in his little bubble walker and all that. He hires Lotus. It's funny because they have backstory, and it's like the backstory gets filled in by the other characters, and it's like, oh, she was this 10-year-old who was a gifted ninja and all that. And I remember her name was Lotus, and then she shows up at the Turtles' lair. You're like, what? It's like, but the fights, you talk about the fights like between Lotus Blossom and Leonardo, like they're going back and forth and all that, and it's awesome. And she wins with like some ninja trickery, a trick handle that turns into like a rocket, and then whenever she leaves her little Lotus Blossom flower there as a calling card, and I'm like, oh, this is a cool character. And this was that one character that I was like, I want to see more of this character. Like, I wish that she was a regular player on the show. So, and very cool.
That's a good point. She would have been cool if they had her in the Night of the Rogues that we talked about, where they got Casey Jones and Zach. They could have thrown her or Mona Lisa back in the vibe too.
Yeah, because you think about it, it's like when you're playing the survival levels, right, on the Shredder's Revenge, and you look at the back and you see Zach and like Mondo Gecko and like Mutagen Man and stuff, or Anthrax, or like whoever they have on there. It's like, yeah, that would have been cool. And who knows, maybe the next DLC we'll get a Lotus. Because I mean, awesome. We've gotten Mondo. I mean, who would be next, right?
It'd have to be her. I'd rather her than Super Irma.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a whole thing unto itself too. Well, it's funny because you can play as Super Irma in like the
Rescue Palooza, right? I think it was.
Well, there's Rescue Palooza, but this game I think most of us have it. It's the TMNT.
Oh, the mobile game, right?
Yeah, this mobile game.
Yeah.
I have not loaded this thing up in like a year. I think
might be
Mutant Madness.
Oh, Mutant Madness. Thank you. Okay.
But you can play as Lotus in that one, and I had to have that character, and I also had to have the Splinter that you were talking about, like the Ninja Splinter. But
yeah,
it's really interesting. But I love that character, and that and Lotus to me has just always been like, wow, she's their equal. And like even to her better, she's like the Elektra to the Daredevil and the Catwoman to the Batman. And I adore her, man. She's so cool.
I agree all the way. I mean, that's one of the few cliffhangers that I actually remember as a kid, because again, like you said, she captures everybody, even gets Splinter. And before they go to the commercial break, Crank says on the lines of, "This rat goes splat." Now, like, oh, geez, they're going to just drop him from the rooftops. And Shredder's kicked out too. I mean, she dominates the Turtles and Shredder, so she pretty much kicks everybody's ass in this one.
And that's the funny thing, where it's like you see Shredder, where it's like he's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna work against this person because I'm kind of a bastard all around. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it's pretty interesting.
And there's some good comedy spots in there too, because I think that's the episode where they're dressed in chicken suits. Right. And they're at a hotel and they're watching them fight on the TV, because April's supposed to record romance episodes. Right. And then they're going to and the whole thing just goes to shams. And
Well,
Shredder's
that's
like,
how they think they find her because of the
oh
flowers. Yeah.
yeah,
Like at
that's
the
right.
forest that Vernon goes to inadvertently. So
Yeah,
yep.
she's like, no, only lotuses, and Shredder's like, someone smash someone, because they're all just jumping around.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah,
there's
it's a solid episode. It's one of my favorites. Like this was one where it's, if you're like hoping that one comes on, it's like, oh, I hope it's this one.
yeah, no, that's actually a good way to go about it too. I never actually thought about that. Yeah, when we had that 7 o'clock or 3 o'clock one, it's like, please give me one I enjoy. Please give me one.
Man, I remember that with The Simpsons more than anything. I'd be like, oh, I hope it's not a crappy season 1 episode.
Yeah, it's like, I seen this one already. Yeah, not exactly. I already got this on tape. I need something I haven't seen in a while.
Yeah.
All right, so we have number 2 is one you actually brought up, and that is the Maltese hamster. I was very close to making that my number 1 episode.
It is so good. And it's like there's very little that keeps this away from being my favorite episode.
Yeah,
but it's just the characters. Like,
yeah.
Okay, if other characters were in this that weren't in the normal one, I'd pick it. But I mean, I put this above the Mona Lisa episode. It's just so good. It's fun. Like, what do you love about it?
Yeah. Oh, just the Donatello spout, the trench coats. Because again, everybody had that toy, the Donatello undercover. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
They're undercover. Donatello with the voice acting, like he's talking like you're in like, a spy or like detective type, episode here. Just the other funny spot, just again, one by one, the turtles go down. I mean, like you said, you brought up, right? Splinter gets captured. Yep. I didn't see that coming. And you don't know Shredder only comes at the end. It was. I think this is one of the few like newer episodes where you get to see something that didn't have Shredder as the main villain. Technically, They worked for Shredder, but it was a breath of fresh air for us. Because again, we've had Shredder in all of season 1, all of season 2, and then until they finally started breaking out into like the Rat King and a couple other characters, it was always Shredder. So it was really nice to see that. And just again, Donatello's just like you said, where he falls in the like. So they took out every turtle, and Donatello's like dead. He's like pretty much injured. Just the guy, the comedy in these two always helps is when they're talking to like the copper, he's like, "Don't talk to strangers and look both ways before crossing the street." Just those goofy spots that that only the 4 turtle actors can do put in there.
I know that the writers, right, used to like some of the classic comedy bits from the 60s and 70s and all that, and they mentioned this in the Turtles documentary about how they had jokes from like Fire Sign Theater, who was like a 1970s radio show and all that, and they had a character called Nick Danger, Third Eye, and it was like a hard-boiled detective who always had like weird comebacks and stuff like that, like for the police. And I think of that when I saw Donatello, he's like, "Don't and look both ways before okay, copper." It's like, and he's just like giving it back. It's like, "Okay, yeah, we will," or like he's not giving him any ground. He's just like he's going back at it every time. It's like, "Okay, all right, we will. All right, now it's getting
that's from okay." Again, it's just such a. Anybody listening to this podcast for the first time, please check out this episode. You'll be glad you did if you're a fan of any Ninja Turtle ears, because they all get a little bit of action. I mean, there's really nothing bad I can say about this episode. Even with like the action you get, the fight scenes are still pretty good with the guns and the mobster stuff. Really well written.
I'll say it makes Leonardo look like a wiener. That's the only.
He's Master Splinter, and he chops through the laser and gets caught in like 2 seconds. Yeah, it's true. Because Splinter's like, "You guys get out of here. I know I'm going to get caught, but you guys get out of here." No, and he just runs in. That's true. He didn't really get any love.
Yeah, that's the only complaint I have about that episode. Yeah. But otherwise, it's so freaking good.
Yeah,
and I think that the animation is sharper than in some of the other ones. It's not as sharp as the first season because nothing is, but
yes,
maybe in my first choice it might be sharp, but
no, and just the grim, dark Batman kind of feel. I mean, it's dark. It's at night. That's when the episode should have taken place. I know they did a couple daytime ones, but I just love that midnight 2 a.m. feel pretty much for this one. Going out to nightclubs and all that good stuff. All right, we've made it, guys. What's taking the gold on Justin's side here?
Oh, this was an easy choice for me. Like, my number one, you already mentioned, is Usagi Yojimbo. Like, this character ignited a passion in me that was just like, oh man, like I didn't know what I liked in terms of characters and all that until I saw Usagi, and I'm like, oh wait a minute, he beat all 4 of the turtles, Like, what's this guy all about? Then I read his comics and all that, and I don't know if you've ever read any Usagi Yojimbo comics, but they are awesome. And it's usually like you'll get like 3 or 4 of them. They're black and white, and it's like, oh, it's this short story. It is so cool. This character is awesome. Miyamoto, his name is Miyamoto Usagi, but they just call him Usagi Yojimbo for the sake of this.
Yeah.
I love this character. It's just so cool. He is by far, besides like Mondo Gecko, my favorite like secondary character that's been in them. And he's been in every incarnation of the Turtles so far. And we haven't seen anything in Mutant Madness yet, but oh wait, maybe he wasn't in Rise. I don't know. But the 2003, the 2012, he's been in those at least. But
he has his own Netflix show. Yeah, he's video games. He was in Shredder's Revenge.
Netflix. That series is really good.
Oh, it is good too. You do recommend that one?
Yeah, I would absolutely. Okay. It's funny because it's like they hunt yokai and they have like special weapons that only work on yokai. I'm like, okay, perfect. So now you can't hurt regular people, with your weapons at least. So it's like, all right, you figured it out. Just like the Turtles figured it out when it's like, oh, I'm going to cut a stalactite down and that'll knock it on Rocksteady and Bebop. But I do think that the animation's a bit crisper in this episode.
Yeah,
and I remember the second card series that came out. If you remember, like they had Topps cards, and the first one,
I do.
All the first season.
Yes.
Then the second one had Usagi Yojimbo cards, and I'm like, oh man, like I said, I was all about this guy. I cut out the back of the box, and I had that card up, and I used to draw pictures of Space Usagi.
Oh yeah,
I just love this guy. So this is the one that like stuck out for me. As much as I would hope that it was Beware the Lotus. Like my number one hope is like, oh, I hope this is the Usagi Yojimbo episode, like the first one.
What did you think of the dragon they had involved in that too? Did you like that part too, or
dude? Why didn't the figure come with the candle? That's what I want to know. Like this. I love all of it, and it's all really cool looking. They did such a good job in this one. And Stan Sakai, it's awesome that he kind of came up with these guys. Usagi started the same year as the Turtles. They all knew each other from like doing these cons and all that. He's like, yeah, run wild with it. Like this is so cool.
Oh yeah, that is a very, very, very good choice. And just the action in an episode alone, in my opinion, and well written comedy, like we talked about with Usagi working as a waiter with all his brothers as a bunny people. All right, so for me, number one, it involves 2 characters working together. I'm gonna see if you can name the episode. I'll give you a couple clues first. So it involves the Turtles. It's not Leatherhead meets the Rat King, but it's another one with them 2 involved working together. Do you know the name of the episode? It's in season 4.
Yeah, I do, but let me just look up what the name of it is because I watched it. I watched it today.
Yeah, this is my number 1.
That's your number 1. Wow. Okay.
I love the story, and it's just so good. Again, like I said, I always talk when Splinter gets involved in somehow. You notice most of my top 10 involved him somewhere.
Yeah. Actually, that's true. That is true. And I mean, there's some episodes where he literally just doesn't hang out.
Yeah.
He's there for like 5 seconds.
Yeah. Says his little, fortune cookie speech or whatever, and then just takes off. Or his words of wisdom.
It's not Were Rats from Channel 6.
No, that's a good one too. That was a creepy one. I think that was with Vernon and Irma turning the rats. That could have been a good one though. Because that's a good battle with Rat King and Splinter actually too in that one.
Is it Splinter Vanishes?
Yep, that's the one. That's number 1. Splinter Vanishes. Yeah. Nice. So I like it. There's one little nitpick I have, but it's just kind of like you and how Leonardo gets dumbed down in your Maltese hamster. Mikey gets dumbed down in that one, how he gets captured. But so for those who don't know, Splinter, again, back in our day, we had VHS tapes. So Splinter makes a tape. He records himself and tells the Turtles, you guys no longer need me anymore as a sensei. What I want you guys to do is I want you to go each your own separate way. And to me, again, me and you are big Muppets guys, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because Muppets take Manhattan vibes. Because they all go their separate way like the Muppets. That's why I always liked episode 2. They kind of all did their own little goodbye and walked away from each other, started their own little jobs and professions. I thought it was great. Michelangelo does his own pizza cooking show. Donatello has his own workshop. Raphael is a birthday card greeter. And Leo has his own fitness club. So the only thing I didn't like about this, though, is just how Michelangelo gets captured. He gets taken out by the rats. That's the only thing I didn't like is how, because he gets captured, guys, in like a little freezer. The rats put him in a freezer, and that's how he gets captured. But everything else about it was awesome. I really liked the fight with Leatherhead and Leonardo. I have Jim Cummings. I still have chills. I don't know if you ever had that, like with certain things you watch, even though it just like sticks with you. And just when Leatherhead's throwing that, dumbbell Leonardo, it almost crashes into him. Leo's dodging that, throws like a turnbuckle type thing back at him. Leatherhead starts shooting him. Leo goes down the drain. Leatherhead thinks he kills Leo. Rat King and Raphael duke it out a little bit. Donatello gets captured because his building almost explodes. And then they end up working together with their android alligators and robot rats. Leonardo frees them, but they're still in trouble. And then Splinter has to come save them all. And he knew they were working together the whole time. So that's my number one. And I never knew of that episode again until VHS tapes, because it's part of the. Do you ever remember the Ray Fillet episode, Rebel Without a Fin?
Oh, yeah.
On that VHS tape. And it was the second episode. And I was like, I never saw this as a kid, but my goodness, this is incredible. It's Jim Cummings' fat last episode voicing Leatherhead. He's got a couple good lines in that one, as if you just saw it yourself. Yep. So that is my number one. And it's funny because it doesn't involve Shredder, Krang, or the Foot Clan, just because we see them all the time. And I mean, they did their part in season 1. So, and that's
what I always liked about the 2012 series is that there was other characters for them. It's like, oh, okay, they're out here, and you've got the big prevailing bad guy in the background. You've got the Krang, or you've got Shredder. They're not necessarily working together. But then it's like, oh, in this episode, they're fighting something called the Creep. It's like. It's just like a completely different vibe. And I always love that about that.
No, exactly. And I just, Pete Renedy does good voicing in that. April helps out. So is there anything you think we missed with this whole entire, is there anything else that, people should know about this that they don't know about just this series? Because again, when you talk Ranks of Turtles, for me, it's always, it's, I'll be honest, 2003 for me is always number one, but this one's always special in my heart just because if it wasn't for this is pretty much Turtle Mania here, guys. If you didn't have this, there would have been no movie, in my opinion. There would have been no, video game franchise without this series.
I think that the later part of the series probably, it's like when you look at it and it's got like Carter and he turns into like a weird sort of mutant.
Oh yeah.
You got like Lord Dreg and stuff like that. It's like, I think that gets a bad rap. It's not as bad as you think, but it's like the new Ghostbusters, like when they made Ghostbusters 2016, where it's like, it's far enough away from what you liked about the original, where it's like, if the original never existed, it probably would have been fine.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that's always going to suffer by comparison. So season 10, season 9, season 8 are always going to, like your Red Sky series and all that. There's some decent stuff there. Lord Dreg is a very good bad guy.
And a good voice actor too.
Like all of that stuff is cool, worthy. I love the idea of turtles in space. It's great because it's a whole different thing, and we can have different people every time, and they're going to a different. That's awesome. Like I love X-Men in space, like all this stuff. It's great, but just by comparison, none of that stuff is on our list because when you compare it to season 3, there's like what? I'm not going to remember that in comparison to like when Raphael, made that joke about Usagi, or something. It's like it just doesn't hit the same way.
Yeah, so. No, it was Turtle, and I think the music was a little bit better because you always get hyped up for that music spot. The comedy was better off. 2 fun facts I can also go off of that. So another fun fact, did you know Robbie Rist is actually a voice in the old cartoon?
Oh, who do you do in the cartoon?
So against Carter, he's Carter's like friend nemesis. And I didn't know that until I had to, again, this is the power of IMDb. I just hear this guy, he always says, "You stinking coward." I'm like, it sounds like Michelangelo. What the hell's he doing in here? So I Googled it and I was like, there it is. That's Robbie Rist. So that was pretty cool. And if you recall the final episode, this is always, I guess since it's our podcast, I can get a little rant off here. So final episode of the show. Do you remember that all? Like any of the farewelling? No. Okay, so we'll give you the cliff notes in case so you don't have to live through it. So
I remember the last X-Men episode. So that's it. Like
that's a very tearjerker. That's a great farewell. And then and then 30 years later we get X-Men 97 on Disney.
We should talk about that next time. We'll talk about X-Men.
I'd be down for that. So with this one, so Lord Dreg's near his end. They have to go to the Technodrome, which is pretty cool. They pay homage to that. They have to use Krang's android body to finally finish off Dreg. I like that spot. Splinter's farewell to them is, "You guys no longer need me. You are our equal. You're my equal now," which is cool. But the final spot is they make popcorn. And I've always had that bone because, like, why? Now, again, in seasons 8, 9, and 10, they kind of ditched pizza. I don't even think they mentioned the word pizza in any of those episodes. They wanted to get rid of pizza. But that was the final spot. Is there's popcorn popping in it like the microwave blows up. It's like that's my last image of what I'm going to see of this for all they've done for me for what 10 years, right? 10 seasons. So that was the only bone. If they would have just left it with Splinter saying that farewell, that would have been fine. But they had to try to end, I guess, with maybe like a joke zinger, and it just didn't hit at all.
Maybe it just should have not gotten to that episode,
Yeah, that's true too. I mean, like, because season 8, I could have been another ending. I guess maybe 9 and 10 were just extras where like they just wanted to keep going. Because again, all 3 of these seasons, guys, was only 8 episodes each.
Yeah.
Season 8, 9, and 10 were only 8 each. So they were really running out of ideas. Did you like that mutation spot in season 9 at all? I guess we can talk on that too. For those who are unaware, the turtles actually started becoming mutated, like Power Ranger, like Megazords, where they're like giants. Do you remember those spots at all?
That's another weird spot. I mean, again, yeah. I'm sure I watched some of it and all that, but does it stick out in memory? Not really. Yeah. I do have. I think I was telling you I did get the like the Japanese animation one, and I've never seen that, so I'm gonna watch that one.
Oh, that's so much fun. Enjoy. We can even do one on that one day. That's fun. It's only 2 episodes. It's very cool. And you're an anime guy yourself, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so you'll like it. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah. Justin, I feel bad that like a lot of the later stuff I don't really get into and all that, but it's like it started out in 1987 when I was 6 years old, and then by the time I was 16 is when it ended. So it's like, there's been some progression. It's like there's other things that captured my excitement, like the Tick show and Eek the Cat and Batman the Animated Series and the New Adventures of Batman and Robin and like Batman Beyond and Pokemon. All of that happened, and for other people, Power Rangers happened in this time. I'm just a little like I'm like that last generation right before Power Rangers hit. So I was,
And WWF was popular too. I started getting into wrestling in like 94, 95. So I really fell off my turtle love too. So
same thing. I was big in the Attitude Era. So you know. And not to say that it's like I fell out of love with turtles, but it's like it wasn't a priority to like catch these on a Saturday. And if I was out doing something, like you said, like out like, oh, I've got a baseball game or something.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's actually, and just how to hit. Yeah. So it had its peak. It popped, and like I would agree. I think season 3 and season 4 were probably like the last. Well, season 3 is the last go. I mean, because then season 4 went to CBS, most of those episodes. So that's when it got a little. I don't know if it was watered down, but I know that CBS, it wasn't really as like they really stopped using their weapons a lot, unless it was like either a sword versus sword, or they make fun of it. And did you ever see those College Humor shorts? I don't work for those, where they finally use their weapons, like they just let's just go throw it on a garden hose. Yes, exactly. So compared to season 1, and then like I said, then like we were just trying to say, that's why we have our top 10, because the more the show progresses, like the writing just gets sloppy. The jokes aren't as well timed in like the later seasons, I felt too. I mean, even like season 6, season 7, they tried getting, I told you, like a couple good episodes, but again, it was almost like too far gone. Like they were trying to bring fans back, but I say we grew up and there were just new things that were going on.
I think it peaked season 3. Then I think on the down was season 4, so it was kind of like going up season 3 and then season 4 and then down from there. So that's why the majority of from season 3.
And you could tell by the DVDs, like we just talked about, like season 1, small, season 2, okay, season 3, season 4. Then it's like, wait, boop, boop, like the numbers dropping to season 2. Oh, dude, Justin, this has been awesome. It's been a lot of fun. Where can people find you? I know you were on our show before. Thank you again for being here. Where can they find you if they want to check out your podcast, which is awesome?
Check out Epic Tales from the Sewers. We are anywhere that you find podcasts. We do have a YouTube channel. You can check out our podcast there. Otherwise, it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. And check out our Facebook group. We have the Epic Shells group and the IDW TMNT group as well on Facebook.
Well, sound awesome. Any other sneak peeks you want to give us for those listening right now today? What you got coming up in 2025? Any goals or?
We just talked to Corey Smith, who did the Karai mini series, the micro series for Karai. He did the infamous issue number 44 for the IDW series. So we just talked to him, and he's the current. If people are fans of Marvel Comics, he's the current artist for Fantastic Four. So we just talked to him. So that was pretty fun. That'll be out probably in about a week or 2.
Okay, perfect. Well, Justin, again, as always, thank you for your time. I hope we can get you on again sometime this year. Turtle Power, and I hope to see you at C2E2 this year.
Hell yeah.
All righty, guys, we're out of here. Thanks for listening.